Guys, happy Sunday night. Boy, those 3-day weekends go by fast. Fast, fast, fast. That's okay, I got a lot done this weekend. One of the things I said I was going to do today was record about when I first was reached. Let's reword that. When I first started going to the Serviceman's home in the Philippines. So I really thought I was going to go one way with the recording tonight, but I decided to do it a little backwards. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of an intro, overview, and then I'm going to tell you about something that happened recently. One of the things that has happened is I have been reconnecting with a lot of people. People that were in the church, but also people that were out, that weren't a part of the group, and that were just friends of mine a long time ago, mostly back in the Philippines. And let me correct that, also friends from back home. Let's go ahead and begin this, because I don't want to be up too late, because I work in the morning. I like to be fresh as a daisy, whatever that means. I'll look it up. I know I will. I'll look it up, but not right now. So here's the deal. I think I already mentioned in a previous video, but not everybody sees all of them. Very quickly, that I claim to have been saved and filled with the Holy Ghost on the same night in a church in New Jersey. I'd never been to a non-Catholic church before. That was the first time. I had noticed people that I knew that had said they were born again were different. And so when I was invited, I went. I didn't go at first, but I finally gave in to the requests. And my life really changed. On every level. And so I started hanging out with some different people from the church and all. Never at any time, I'm going to mention this, never at any time. Now, this particular church had people follow up on me, but never was there anything about, well, where were you? Why weren't you in church? What's going on? Did you pay a tithe? Did you pay offerings? Nothing like that at all. They were highly involved in outreach, in spreading the gospel. I can say that about them for sure. At the time, I have no idea what they're about now. I see they have grown and spread out, but I'm just saying, for my part then, that's what it was about. Faith and praying and really believing that just between me and God, we had a relationship. We had a one-on-one thing. I never felt like if I missed church or had to work, or I wasn't, I worked in the city then, in New York City. I would have to take the train home to New Jersey, get to another area away from where I lived, and go to church. So it was a huge effort. And because I did travel by train and walking around the city or subways, I did not have a car waiting for me at the train station, because I didn't need it, because I lived right there. And so it took a lot of effort. Never at any time, ever, 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 did I ever hear anything except this amazing relationship that you have with Christ, and it's you and Him. There is no intermediary, as there was when I was in the Catholic Church. And I felt it was a very vibrant thing. And of course, as you become a Christian, you do come across the paths of people who, you know, like to put in their 2 cents. But I was not a part of a group who was being judgmental of other people. And so I would go to all different types of events. So I would be going to church, and then maybe on the weekend I had another friend who was, we were both the same age, had graduated from high school from the same place. And she would take me around with a bunch of her Christian friends, and we'd go hear people preach or listen to somebody sing, or just a lot of outreach, a lot of just going out in different places, different events, and telling people about Christ and about salvation. And so that happened. Then probably a year later, I went into the Air Force, and I did not want to be stationed in the States. I was really afraid that I was going to just be in a situation where, and I only thought this because when I was in my school training in Biloxi, Mississippi, after finishing basic training, everybody was talking up going to Fort Walton Beach, Florida, because it wasn't far from where Biloxi was, and also, everybody thought it was a great assignment because you're at the beach and party and all that. So I was thinking, I just don't want any part of that. This other girl in my class, I don't even know why she was in the military, to be honest. I really don't. Except maybe where she lived in North Carolina, there were no jobs or something. But, the job we had was complicated. It wasn't easy. Not everybody made it through school. And when we got our assignments, she was getting upset, and she said, I put in to go to North Carolina so I can be by my mama. And of course, I was a little bit older than everyone in the class except maybe one person. And I said, where are you going? She said, I'm going to the Philippines. And I got an assignment to Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I said, hey, I will trade. And so if you were going to trade with somebody, it had to be the same job, and you had to do it within like a couple of days. This was at the time. And so I remember going back to my barracks, dorm, whatever it was, and she called me on the phone in the day room and was like, let's go over to CBPO, to the personnel office, and get this taken care of. And I was thinking, it is pouring nasty rain out there. That's the last thing I want to go to. Just marched home in the rain from classes, And so I just went ahead and did it. I was like, well, she's ready to go. We only have a couple days. So we went and we did that. And I came back. It was approved right away. I came back to the day room, and I called my family. And I called my parents, my mom specifically, and I said, hey, I got my assignment. I'm going to the Philippines. I didn't tell her I had traded because I knew they wanted me to stay stateside. And she's like, where are you going? I said, to the Philippines. And it was really dead quiet. Now, my mom and my stepdad had been, they were involved in politics, and I was before I got into the Air Force. And so they're really up on current events and all. And she was quiet, and I said, what's wrong? Do you know what's going on over there right now? I said, no. Basic training, schooling, we don't see anything. And she said, no, they've been having a people's uprising of power over there, and they've put out Imelda Marcos and her husband and all this stuff. And I said, oh, okay. I didn't know about that. And she said, so, I don't know what you're going into, if anything. So I really, honestly, I didn't care. I wanted to be away from them. I wanted to be away from Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I didn't want to be in some hokey pokey town somewhere where there was just nothing going on. So I felt like, I had this amazing opportunity. waited for this job that I wanted, and I was going to go overseas and experience something different. And so when I got there, it was different. It was very different. And, you know, anyone who has taken the long plane rides, I think I went from Mississippi to Tennessee to Texas to California, up to McCord, over to up to Alaska, then over to Tokyo, then over to the Philippines on my way there. So it took days. It took days, and you're going through time changes, and you're like, who am I? Where am I? And you get there, and you're like, what? What? This place is hot. I hate humidity. And this was it was so hot, but it was it was like January of 1988, and it was like there was never a cloud in the sky to block that sun. Never. It was just hot. It was just so hot. And so it wasn't long, you know, I kind of sought out a church service, and from there I met people. In fact, my roommate, she and her boyfriend said, oh, we need you to introduce you to, they didn't go to church all the time or anything. I think she was brought up Catholic as I was, but her boyfriend's roommate was my ex-husband. She said, oh, you got to meet him and all his friends if you're looking for a church or something. There's a lot of single GIs that do stuff together. We just know that he's involved in stuff. So we all got together, and it was almost right away, like easily within a week or so of my arrival, that I met up with this whole big group, really great people. And we had, we just did all kinds of things. Not only just, and really everybody didn't go to the same church service on base. There were some services off base, as I mentioned in the one video last night. And like I said, also we did things with the orphanage. We did things to help people who were in the church who were Filipino, who lived out in barrios, and we did different things for them. We just went out and told people. There was never, ever in any church I'd been to, I think the last time I was in a church or something prior to all these places that was similar to NCC, in that you had to fill out an envelope and you had to put your name on it and how much you were giving, and it was recorded, was the Catholic Church. That was the last time. So I think, as I said, I did that for all of 1988. Went back home in August to get married, and then he went to be stationed in upstate New York, Rome, New York, at what was the name of that base? Griffiths, right? Yeah. I went to schooling at Travis Air Force Base, and then I flew up and through McCord and everything, Alaska again, to Narita International Airport, back to the Philippines. And by that time, so then a couple months later, it's right after New Year's 1989, and I get invited by a mutual friend of mine and my ex-husband's to come out to this church off base, where I'd never seen this friend so excited about a church service. And so I said, okay. And so I went. And it was quite something. And it was different for me because it was held in this, and here's the pictures here, and I showed these also yesterday, but these are pictures from now, from Google Maps, not from back then. I lost a lot of my pictures then. But we would drive to the main gate and then walk off base, mostly to go to service, because people would steal cars and everything in the Philippines, and they stole mine I think like near the end of 1989, something like that. That was out in front of the Serviceman's home. And so we went, listened to the service, and it was just this little house. Of course, no air conditioning in there. They would set up chairs, and there was a lectern. And then after the service, we would sit around a table and have coffee and drinks and some goodies and talk and fellowship and all. Other nights it might be a Bible study. And this was the Ashmores, who are no longer in the organization. And maybe just a few years ago or something, on Facebook, a mutual friend reached out and said, James Ashmore tried to get a hold of me to apologize for having got me entangled in this group, and I just told him off, you know. And so I wasn't sure what to make of that, because you step back and what you don't do right away is realize that these people were stuck in it too, the same way Keckle is, the same way Kinson is, the same way the Malones are, the same way the Gazangs are, all of them. They're all stuck in there. I was telling my daughter, we were talking about being in the church, and we hadn't spoken much because she was so resentful of our time in there, resentful of having to leave her friends the way we left, even though most of them got out too with their families. There were still others who were in and whose families had behaved in a way that was very cult-like, but, you know, when you take it out on the kids, or you, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done if I was in, so I can't judge harshly on that. I don't know what I would have done if we were still in and some other people were out, and I just don't know. So I reserve opinion on that. It's just it was hard for the girls to grasp why they were being treated a certain way or being ignored and all that. And as my daughter shared, you know, Crawford ripping up the letter that Diana wrote to his stepdaughter in a fellowship meeting, or I think it was a fellowship meeting. You know, just silly stuff to make yourself be conspicuously on the side of the organization. So, having said that, we were talking together, and I was really just trying to listen to her and what she was having to say. And I told her, I said, I know, you know, I'm the one that first started going to this group, so I understand any animosity you may have to me and all, but really, let's just talk about it, and then let's try to really move on in a real healthy way. And so I was telling her what it was like when I met the Ashmores and why I started going. She knows all about, my daughter knows all about how my mom was with me as an adult, never mind as a child. So she could understand that, being drawn to the loving nature of people. And that, because not everyone in NTCC is loving or has a loving nature that's out in a church, I can tell you. I've had some of those too. So we were talking about it, and I shared that with her, and I was getting choked up, and she said, have you ever, you know, told them what that meant to you? I said, no. I said, I need to think about that, because what I hadn't considered was that, you know, here I was writing about my experience, writing about having been entangled with this group and finally getting out. And I knew the Ashmores were out, and I never made the correlation that, like, almost like saying they're human too, you know, like they were duped too. I would like to know their story. I really would. It would be important to me to know that, instead of making any assumptions. I don't want to know what anyone else says. I would love to hear it from them. At the same time was when, I've said this before, my daughter shared with me about Keckle preaching online about the lost kids of NTCC, and so these were a group of second generation, or those who grew up in the church, who had gotten together in a group. And here was Keckle Online, which I was shocked that the group had an online presence. I hadn't looked at anything about them for so long, just tending to my life. And so when I saw what he said and how he was, and as I mentioned before too, my daughter and I have a really strong bond with care and concern for service members. I was in, she's a medic, a combat medic in the Army, and we've just seen things in people's lives, and we just have a great care and concern for them, because we're like an on the ground level of seeing their lives and seeing their needs, and not wanting them to get tangled again. We'll find a new word. Getting messed up by coming in contact with New Testament Christian Churches of America Incorporated, NTCC for short. And so I saw that, and that was when I just said, I'm in a good place right now. I'm in a really good place where I can focus on this and make this throw a chunk of time at it. And so that's what I began to do. And that, aside from my experiences, here they were online, all over the world, streaming. So I didn't have to wonder, I wonder what they think now, or I wonder what they do now. There it was. I must interject here that I apologize for the sound in the background. I didn't realize how loud the dryer was. I have the door closed and everything, and but my granddaughter's backpack is in the dryer, and it's just making incredible noise. I even threw in some pillows and towels to buffer it. It's just having its way in there, so I apologize. What's important is showing up in searches. That is an important part of this whole endeavor. So it's not just the content being super focused on the unique spin that this group has, which I don't think is so unique, because other groups distort and bastardize the gospel. So NTCC is not new in that regard. They have their own little flavor going on, and so I like to try to focus on that, intertwined with personal stories and all. And so recently I had the opportunity to speak to both Helen and James Ashmore, and I heard their side, and as far as, I don't want to say their side as if they're sides, but their personal stories, each of them individually. And knowing what I knew about them, like when you're in the group, you see only the good, and you notice, like, it's in the back of your mind, these other things that are kind of annoying. And what I really appreciate about both of them is how humble they are. Extremely humble. Not going to share everything that was said, or anything right now, really. I just want you to know, as I proceed with what I'm going to say real quick here tonight, as an introduction, as a springboard, is that I'm also going to give you the link to James Ashmore's Facebook page, where he has messages that he preaches, where he posts different things. And I knew that it was there, but hadn't looked in on it until quite recently. And then when we spoke, both sharing our stories, and I was sharing also with him what happened after they left the Philippines and what happened after they left Okinawa to set it up. Because, you probably don't know, if you haven't been in very long, how crucial that couple was to the formation of this organization and the schools and everything. But there is a difference between them and these other men. And so that's what I'm going to tell you right now. When I started going to the church, to the Serviceman's home, these are some things I never saw that I saw as soon as they left from the other preachers. And that saw humility. So yes, did he get up in the pulpit and preach like a house on fire? And was he, did not back down or apologize for what the scriptures say? And remember, as I share all this, I'm not here to promote or demote a belief system or anything. I am talking about this group and what their beliefs are and what their behaviors are, okay? So I really want to make that clear. There is no, the reason why Mr. Tony in the comments said, I don't even know what you believe right now. Exactly. I think Heckle said in a service he didn't know if I was still going to church or not. Exactly. None of your business. Has nothing to do with this. Whether I go to church or not, whether I do anything a certain way, does not add to or take away from what this group does. It doesn't. It has nothing to do with it. But we know how they are, and they will try to, they've lied about, I don't know if there isn't anyone they've lied about who has left the organization, and you do not know the truth about what's going on in their lives till you leave. It's like stepping through the looking glass or something. You step into this world of greenery and butterflies and sunshine and warmth and renewal and people that you thought were, languishing. Does that mean no one has languished on their journey or otherwise, or maybe still? No. Does it mean because that's how it is in their group? There are people that are languishing. There are people that are hurting, and there have been through the years. We saw them. We know who they were. A lot of them were missionaries. So as I began to go to the church, I started to do the same thing as the guy who invited me, and I started inviting people in my dorms, from work, and people would come out. All the people that I was involved with the orphanage and everything, and each one of them came out. They wanted to see what was going on. What was Tracy involved in that she had very little time all of a sudden. And so they came out. Most of them never came back. And to be honest, a lot of them didn't at the time. They were Baptists and didn't believe in the baptism of the Holy Ghost. So they were definitely put off by that. But, and so, at the time I believed I'd found a church home that on the surface seemed to be something that was interested in reaching souls. So, we spent a lot of intimate time because we were I don't know how long they'd been there in the Philippines, but it was not that long. And they lived so humbly. And I told you, I know I told the story about when I first started going out and I got really sick, and they came to the barracks, and my friends came up to my dorm room, knocked on the door and said, get downstairs, the Ashmores are here to see you. And Helen had wrapped up in a little foil little pouch with a handle on it, some homemade brownies. And you know how you can tell by the look on people's faces that they're truly concerned for you. That really touched me. I still have that image in my mind, and I never forgot it. And it was one of the things I was like, I haven't known this kind of like loving, unconditional love and attention in my life. That was special to me. That meant something to me. Did I think that the people in the other churches didn't care for me and all? I believe they did. But this was a whole different thing. This was a whole different thing. This was so intimate. This was coming into this little home and seeing these people, like, you have to believe there's something going on within them. They must have a heart after souls to do this. Like, who would live off base like this with no air conditioning? I mean, we all did eventually because there just wasn't air conditioning. And if you had a window unit, as we did when my ex-husband came back to the Philippines and we moved off base, if you had it on all the time and you couldn't hear when the Filipinos were trying to break into your apartment and rob you, as they tried to do to a lot of us. But anyway, I digress. And so it became, yes, I had friends that I was, they weren't happy that I was going there. But slowly what began to happen, I didn't even feel it happening, was, the kids from the orphanage would call on the phone at the dorm and ask me if I was going to be coming out there. And, that began to fade out. And, I heard different preaching that I applied a certain way. No one told me, no, go ahead, go, But, would I have done, would I do things differently now? Of course. When I spoke to James Ashmore and I said, oh yeah, I brought people out one by one, he said, right, and I ran them off one by one. Like, pretty much, yeah. Yep. But what everyone could say was, when we sat around the table afterwards, this wasn't a person who wanted to be like, I'm at the head of the table, which was hard to do when you're at a round table. I mean, honestly, it's like, I know King Arthur could do it in the Knights of the Round Table, but it's a hard thing to be at the head of the table when it's round. I'm just putting that out there. But both he and his wife, just humble, inconspicuous. They were not ever conspicuous. In fact, if you recall, if you know the Ashmores, if he sat in a chair, it's almost like he was folding within himself, folding up within himself. He wasn't sitting puffed up and at the head of the table and I want this and I want that. No, it did not work that way. Whenever even I came out to visit at lunchtime, it was like the two of them scurrying around to tend to me, and it was like that no matter who was there. So that was a thing. So as the months went on, there was a point where I think it was May of 1989. I got deployed to Thailand for 2 months, and I know they were concerned because I remember Helen asking, was there any way for me not to go? Because I'm sure the thought was, and I can understand it, that, what was going to happen over there. And I didn't look at it, I didn't feel about it the same way I do when I hear like Kinson or Keckle preach about being in the services and other preachers in the organization and being worried for people going home. You either believe that there's a powerful God that lives inside of them, or you don't. And if you don't, then you're going to be worried, and then you're going to try to keep them. It's a cultural thing within this group to be worried about people that are going to be away from services during the week. That's why if you're in the military and you have things going on, you have duty, you have guard duty, you have to maybe work extended hours, maybe there's a GI party or something that will keep you away. And I know when the Ashmores left and the other couple was there, I remember that began to be a situation. There was a coup attempt on the president of the Philippines, and so our squadron, because we were special ops, we hosted the SEALs and the Rangers and every specialized group came to our squadron because they were going to practice some night infiltration on buildings in Manila. And so, I had to be there. It's work related. But when the wife or the pastor starts questioning what's your commitment, here, you almost like saying, sounds like work is more important to you. Like we've heard Crane say, it's just, hello, military commitment, military obligation, I have to do this. And you keep nagging me like that, lady, I'm not going to want to come out here. So that happened after the Ashmores left. But while they were there, I just saw two people who clearly cared about reaching people. And so that really became clear one night, not long after I started going. We were having a Bible study one night talking about soul winning. We wanted people to come to church, but we also stood around talking to people about Jesus. So we were sitting there one night, and he just closed his Bible and said, "Let's go." And they closed up the Serviceman's home, and whoever of us was there, we went out on the streets outside of the gate where there were bars and GIs running around, and we just began talking to people. It was amazing. It was really amazing. There was some crazy antics too. I think I told James the other night that I remember Helen standing there, and it was myself and another lady, and this guy came up. We were talking to him about the church, about God, and his drunk friend, came up behind him and pulled his shorts and his underwear down in front of us, and we just kind of covered Helen's eyes and went in another direction. But we were out there. We were trying to infiltrate, not just people on base, and but anyone. Now, I'd already known from living in the Philippines for just over a year after meeting them that every opportunist will come out of the shadows to shove a hand in your face for pesos or for mostly for money. They will borrow a baby to say, "Oh, my baby I need money. Okay, I'll buy you stuff to feed them." "Oh, no, I need money. I can get it." So you start to know the difference, that there are people who look at the church as, I think that's why when I heard Davis say things through the years, some things, not all, because he had a bad attitude when it came to anyone, but basically people with a job and the opportunity to pay tithes and offerings. That's what he wanted. That's why they go after the military. But there were people like that would come in, and I would watch how things were handled. I do not recall any kind of preaching about you have to do this with tithes or else you're going to hell. You have to be here every single service or else you're going to hell. and I'm going to question your dedication and your faith and all that. So I don't remember what month it was, but then this other couple came. I think they had just come from the Bible school, so they were in that weird mental place. I don't know. I don't think they were just married, but I think I don't know. Actually, I don't even know if they came over from St. Louis or from Washington, because this would have been 19, I don't know, 89, 90, 89. It was 1989, maybe like September. I don't know where the Bible school was then, if it was out in Graham already or not. But because we went in the beginning of 92, February 92, and it was in Graham. So I don't know how long it had been there. I don't remember. But this other couple was with the Ashmores for a little while. And then the Ashmores left and they were there, and it just became... well, I knew once I went to the Bible school, they were trying to run this serviceman's home like a Bible school. Does that mean the Bible school was correct in how it was run? Absolutely not. No, it wasn't. But that's what they were trying to do here with pretty much permissions about things and micromanaging our lives. And that's where I was introduced to the whole, you have to fill out an envelope with your name on it with the tithe amount. And if you haven't been doing that, because I opened my mouth, I was like, I didn't know that. Just gave, And really, I question when I see all these churches and they put up on the screen before their service that one way to pay, get a pre-printed envelope from the back, put your name on it with the amount. Why? Why do you have to do that? Why do they have to have their name? If you want to say, well, we need it to be distinguished for accounting purposes to the government. What's a tithe? What's an offering? You want to go play that game by being an organization. That's why you have to question the whole organization structure. And is it really promoting the gospel or not? Is it about just conducting business? And that is offensive, I think, to people. And I think they do it because they feel like they don't know better. Why do you need to put a name and a tithe amount on an envelope? There's one reason. It's for tracking. If you have to put your name, don't put your name and see what happens. Don't put your name in the serviceman's home on your envelope for tithe and see what happens. You just see. I dare someone to try it. I would love for you to try it and see what happens. Just see what happens. They'll come knocking on your door, or they'll preach it over the pulpit. They will find some way to make sure you get the message straight. You have to have your name attached so we know if you're in or not. We can't just have a basket full of money not knowing where it goes or who gave it or how much. It's sick. To me, that it's being out now and looking at it and trying to find how in the world you justify that by the scriptures you say you follow. It's crazy. Anyway, so my time with the Ashmores, though, he was a part of the organization. And so there were organizational things that were preached and taught. And I know his thoughts on those now because I went over to his Facebook page to see has he elaborated on any of that. Anyway, what I would like you to do is realize that James Ashmore tried to bring things up before the board and tried to see change. and they would have none of it. Clearly, I don't even have to know what was said or anything. I can tell by the action. And they left. Those people left after how many years of being in the organization, and all that they did. Just from my experience alone, I know that the Ashmores started the church in the Philippines, the Serviceman's home. It was passed on to the Keys and then the Blumenthals. And then what happened was in 1990, there were 2 Americans killed outside the base. And so, rightly so, the organization brought them back. But prior to that, the Ashmores, and I don't know that I have the time frame correct, but I'm thinking it had to be 90. Either at the end of 89, beginning of 90, they went to Okinawa to start the Serviceman's home there. And a few of us took a Space A flight from Clark to go up there and to visit. And I'm thinking, I'm trying to get it right for a reason, because then I believe the Blumenthals came in after them, after they dug it out. But I'm pretty sure that's what happened. But anyway, several of us went up there to visit them, and man, they had a vibrant thing going on, and just the greatest guys and girls that they had reached, like a really great core group of people, and we had a blast. And it was the same thing. They were just working hard. The Ashmores, they were humble, and it was the same thing. There was just love and fun and trying to reach people, and I just remember those as really great and good times. Aside from whatever doctrines and things I can look back on now, there's a huge difference between these other leaders: Davis, Keckel, Olson, Johnson, and now you've got someone like Fausto, Kinson. They weren't on the board back. Then. He was different. Ashmore was different. Helen Ashmore was different. She wasn't a busybody trying to do some of the things that these other ladies were. And so I can look back with appreciation for who they were, their authentic self, outside of just this umbrella of this authoritarian organization whose tentacles reached into their lives as well. And you don't know those things because you think Heckle's going to get up there and tell you in a service or in a class. These people have been just, for me, they were humble, loving, and caring. And I was always thrilled whenever I saw them at a conference or, in the parking lot after church or something, if they had come through Graham. They had always been just very special to me. And so when I had the opportunity to speak with them recently, it just really, to hear the stories of what it was like for them, it kind of made my situation pale in comparison. And so I don't want to say anything. I'm just alluding to it, obviously, but all I can say is this. The only reason I do not want to be responsible for anybody. It's why I don't direct people to all different blogs and places, because if there's anything there that I don't agree with or think just might not have enough context or something, I don't want to send anyone there. I don't want to be responsible for confusion or for redirecting someone to something or some thought or some belief that's not correct either. So in directing you, I'm going to just give the disclaimer in directing you to James Ashmore's Facebook page, where he preaches services, which I think I started to watch one a while ago, but this was before I spoke with them, and I wasn't really sure I was ready for that. But then I was reading his posts, and I found a lot of things that I could see in the same way I had to step back and analyze my belief system and what I was going to accept and what was. You have to go. It's a process. You have to go through the process of separating the chaff from the wheat, or whatever you want to say. You're going to throw, or some people throw the baby out with the bathwater. Some people don't accept there is a baby or a bathwater. So there's all different viewpoints that people come from once they leave. And I cannot attest to everything that's on his page. I just know I found some interesting things there. And that is what I think you will find if you go there as well. This organization has a long history of lying about everyone who leaves. And it's just not true. They'll either lie right to your face, or they'll do both, and they'll lie after you leave as well. So before you just take everything that comes over that pulpit in Graham or anywhere else as, oh man, this is from the throne room, you have to stop and realize you are blindly following and believing just some dude who just told you, it'd be like me telling you, I'm this thing. And you, look, my proof is right here, is right where? Where is the proof? These men don't have the proofs from the New Testament. That is what they follow. That is what they purport to believe, right? These signs will follow them that believe. Are they there? Look at their lives over the pulpit, what they preach, what they teach, everything else, and then does it measure up? If that's what you're going to believe, is the KJV version of the Bible. So I just want to invite you to follow the link to his page if you want to, send a message or say something. Just, be nice. If you have a question, ask a question. If you have a problem with him, which I can understand. I was there. But realize, especially I speak to those who are out, we've all been duped. We were all in, including Helen and James. So cut slack, and if we cut it for each other, for those of us who weren't on the board, there is another side. That's all I'm saying.